And we anticipate she'll be either back tomorrow or January 5th. Congressman Mike Johnson is here. Hey, Mr. Mike, welcome back to KEEL. How are you today?
Hey, Robert. Great. Always good to be with you.
You know, Steve Scalise said no to running for governor. That was no surprise. Jeff Landry said no to running for governor. That kind of surprised me. John Kennedy said no. I was really stunned. What did you know about that ahead of time? And were you as surprised as I and a lot of people were?
I'll be very honest. I was really surprised. I'm very close to Senator Kennedy. He and I talk all the time. We've been talking about this for quite some time. I think even his staff was under the assumption that he would announce that he would run for governor. And so it just kind of came out of the blue. You know, I respect him. I trust his judgment. You know, he's been a great senator, and clearly he's doing a great job for Louisiana. And as he explained in his statement, we really need him there. He said, you know, he's in a great spot. He said, right now, I think can do the most good for Louisiana where I am. I don't, you know, that it's hard to argue with that. But we all recognize, as he said, as I say all the time, as you say, this state is in a mess. And we need someone who, look, I defined it this way, Robert. I said, whoever we run for governor and the Republican side has to have 3 Bs. They got to have the brains, the bravado, and the bandwidth to do the job. And Kennedy checked all 3 boxes. That's why a lot of people got excited about it. We'll have to see who steps up now.
You know, you had said at the beginning of your answer, of your response, you said that you were close and you and he had talked about it. I don't want you to break any confidence, or talk out of school. What had he said previously?
Well, we just, you know, had talked a lot over the last several months. Almost a year now, about he and I both lamenting together the sad state of our state government, and the fact that we're being left behind by so many other surrounding states and southern states, and we haven't been able to maximize all the great potential that is there now that we've gotten all these tremendous things done, reforms done in the first 2 years of the Trump administration, the 115th Congress. It's just very, very frustrating to be serving in Washington and know that so many of these opportunities are being squandered because of poor leadership in Baton Rouge. I mean, I'm just speaking very frankly. There's nothing personal. John Bel Edwards and I go back to law school. He was a year behind me in law school. I've known him a long, long time. We've been having policy debates a long, long time. This is not a personal thing at all. It's about philosophies of government. And we need someone who's a true conservative who understands the proper role of state government and how to fix all this. And now we have a very short fuse, a short window of time to get that done. So we've got to be real serious about who we run and how we do this.
Do you sense that Mr. John's decision, because you said thought he was going to do it, so did everybody else. Do you sense that the decision to not run for governor was made really, really recently?
I think it was, and I have not spoken to him since he made the statement a couple of days ago or yesterday. And all your days run together when you're doing this job, you know. But I look forward to having the conversation. I'm curious, as everyone else is, what made the decision. Look, I don't begrudge him and his decision. As I said, he's in a great place. He's made an extraordinary name for himself and by extension for the state by what he's done in the Senate. And he's in a key and pivotal position in Washington to serve us well. So these are hard decisions to make. And it's been pointed out in the last 24 hours. In no other state in America would anybody even in their wildest dream consider leaving the U.S. Senate to run for the governorship. It's just that Louisiana has such a unique style and system form of government. That's part of the problem, frankly. The governor in this state is so all-powerful, omnipotent, that it's an attractive thing for people to aspire to. And but Kennedy, to his credit, he recognized what was best for him and his family and the state, I think, and he's decided to stick around. So, I respect the decision. But again, now we've got to get real serious in a very short amount of time to decide how we're going to run this race, who we're going to run, and how we're going to replace the leadership on the fourth floor of the Capitol.
You and I live in a part of the state other than Shreveport and or Caddo Parish, which is like a blue dot. You and I live in a very, very red part of Louisiana. Do you think that Mr. Jeff Landry saying no to running, do you think that Mr. John's balking at the opportunity of running for governor? Do you think that is John Bel stronger south of here, maybe south of I-10, than we up in this part of the state realize?
If you look at his favorability ratings, they're higher than you might expect. But I think a lot of that is because people just simply are not reviewing the true facts. It is certainly the case that the statewide, what we would call the mainstream media, are in the corner of John Bel Edwards. I don't even think you could dispute that. You look at the major newspapers around the state and other media outlets; they're constantly giving him, favorable press. They don't do any criticism at all. You'd be hard pressed to find any at all. And so that helps to bolster the numbers. But in an election cycle, which we're going to face coming into the next year, when the true facts are circulated, when the ads begin to run, when people look at what is happening to our state under the leadership of this governor, they will recognize clearly that we've got to make a change. I think more and more people will. And so I think John Bel is vulnerable and can be beaten, and I think should be. Again, not personal. We just need to do what's best for the state, and we're running out of time.
The Republican Party is, in fact, searching for a candidate. Ralph Abraham, a congressman like yourself, is one name mentioned. Tell us about him, and tell us about who else. What other names might be in the mix in the near future?
Well, every name that's been suggested are all good, close personal friends of mine, so it's always difficult in a cycle like this. I mean, obviously, Jeff Landry and I are very close. He's like a brother, and he's publicly said that he will not run for that because he would have to give up the Attorney General's post, and he's doing an exceptional job there.
Excuse me, Mr. Mike, pardon me. Do you think John balking like this, do you think John saying no may cause Mr. Jeff to reconsider?
I don't know. I'm sure he's thinking and praying about it hard. I haven't talked to Jeff in the last 24 hours either, but I look forward to that conversation. But we know as of this morning, we know that Eddie Risponi is already in. He's a Baton Rouge businessman, fine gentleman, great friend of mine, and someone who I think could do a fine job as governor. You mentioned my dear friend and brother across the hall, literally moving across the hall from me in the Cannon House office building in D.C., Ralph Abraham from Northeast Louisiana. He covers about a third of the state by land area in his congressional district. It's a lot of the rural area, ag districts and all that. But an exceptional guy, great guy. His resume is longer than most people could aspire to in 2 or 3 lifetimes. The problem is for so many of these candidates is they're just not known outside their particular regions. And unless someone can self-fund to the tune of, $5, $6, $7 million at a minimum, they're going to have a hard time getting their name known around the state. We've got a short window of time to get this done. There are other names being mentioned as well. They're all great people. What I'm concerned about, Robert, is the scenario where we have just a number of underfunded, lesser-known candidates who try to jump in on the Republican side, and we wind up doing the circular firing squad again, and then someone goes limping into a runoff against John Bel, and we repeat what happened in 2015. We can't afford to do that, and so we've got to get all our folks around a table to have some very thoughtful intra-family conversation to figure out how to get this thing done, and that's going to happen in earnest, I think, in the coming weeks.
To a lot of folks in this part of the state, Governor Mike Johnson doesn't sound too bad. Any thoughts at all?
Look, I just got elected to a top leadership post in the Congress, in the House. I mean, we're effectively now, I think, probably the 10th ranked Republican in the Congress, which is a turbo boost for us in our district. And so I'd just be derelict in my duty if I walked away from that, because we're going to have a great amount of influence over the next couple of years. So, look, I'm in this all in, though. Kelly and I have 4 children under the age of 17. I don't want all my kids leaving Louisiana, as has been the problem for so many of us in recent years. We've got to fix what ails our state government and its system. The solutions are there, but as I said, it'll take a lot of political courage to get it done. We need brains, bravado, and bandwidth. Those 3 boxes have to be checked, and there's just a small handful of people who can check all 3. So I'm in prayer like everybody else is. This is serious business.